G'day mateys, today, new episode. We will be installing this toggle switch into this magical spice orange Gamecube. So this is a Japanese import. It was only available in spice orange in Japan. So I've got myself this one, and we're going to put a little switch in the back of it here today, and that will be able to flick it from Japanese to English. It will still remain NTSC, but it will go from the Japanese zone to the US zone, and then we'll do another modification to the disk drive unit so we can actually play PAL import games on it. That may appear in this episode or in part 2. See how we go for time. So firstly, we need to flip this over, like so. We have 4 screws to start off with today, and we have to use a Nintendo Gambit. So you can buy these quite easily off a place like eBay or AliExpress. It's a 4.5. I'll turn that around so you can read it. There you go, 4.5. So we'll pop that in here, stick it in, and we'll get these screws out. You can see that this is the DOL001 JPN for Japan. That means that this one has the digital port on the back that can be used for outputting to one of those HDMI converters that are now available. So 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. So now the lid should just pop up. There we go. The lid is now up. Fairly straightforward. We'll move this to the side. Lots and lots and lots of screws in these units. It's quite impressive. There is also a battery at the front here that we'll test. I won't be able to replace that today because I don't have any replacement ones in stock. I do have some in order. They are coming. So if it is flat, we'll do another episode on how to do that. So we now have to take all these screws out along here. And then this whole top section, I believe, lifts off. So we'll give that a go and see how it happens. So, screwdriver. So that side is now free. Over to the next side. So the next side we've got one here and one here, and I think the fan will come out. So we'll unplug the fan just from there. Cable comes around the back through there, like so. One screw there. This is the actual power switch on the unit. I'll actually unplug just that one there. And hopefully this section will just pull away. There you go, as you can see that's pulled away. The power lead needs to be just, if you can see, it's routed through this channel here, so just unroute that. Put it to the side. Now, that's the little fan unit. It's actually not that dirty, so quite impressed. That's great. So we'll take the rest of these screws out here. 3 now left. Three, so they can all go into there. I'm trying to keep them separated off to the side so we know where they are. Now I believe that this whole top section now will just lift up. No, it doesn't. I've missed a screw there. Okay, just push that forward and that comes away. That's the rear section, and that's what we'll be popping a switch into later. Okay, now I'll pull that away. You can see there's more screws along the back here. I'm going to assume that there's probably some at the front, so we're going to move this forward. Put this here so you can see. So we should pull this forward here. Yes. And there's a ribbon cable. It's soldered this end, so it's actually put in the other end, so we just need to pull that up, that comes out. So on this one, the silver contacts here point towards the back of the unit, so away from you, unless you're working it the wrong way around. So you can just see that there, that's quite easy. There's that battery I was talking about before. That's your lid switch. So yeah. So I still have some screws in here that I'm not aware of. So we've got a couple here on the game ports. Yeah, they do go through. Pull those out, you can see how long they are. And go to the side. That can go under to there. Right. Now how are we looking? There we go. So it is free. I just need to pull. So there's a connector just here for the drive mechanism that connects to the main board here. Now, under this main board is where we need to do this switch modification today. So we'll move this to the side. A little bit dusty there, so we'll clean that up before we put it back. Great. Let's carry on. So lots and lots of screws in this. Is amazing. So let's get this heatsink off. There we go. So those are now all loose. So let's pop it over. Get those out. Did all 6 come out? Yes, they did. Pop those into here. So now we have to get this heatsink off. Probably going to be very well glued on here. There we go. Just twisted it as you saw it. Went twist, released. There we go. So actually still quite moist. That's great. IBM processor. You can see your little round chips here. There's your main processor there. And now we have to find the solder pack that we have to add the wires to. So I think it's just over this side. So I will get my magnifying glass out and we'll check that out. We'll put that to the side. I'll be back in 1 sec. I apologise about the wobble cam, but I think you need to see this a bit closer. So, just in here, right here, there's 2 empty dots. That is called R6. So we need to run 2 wires from there, and we're going to run them out across down here to where we're going to mount the switch. So it's quite easy. If you wanted just to make this permanently NTSC US, you just put a solder bob across those. But if you want to be able to flick it between Japanese and US, you need to put a switch in. So that's where we're going to do it, just in there. And we'll give that a bit of a go and we'll show you how it proceeds. We've got the soldering iron right here, ready to go, 325. This is my backup soldering station because the other one's in the other room on another project. So yes, we'll get in there. We've got a little bit of hookup wire. Now the hookup wire we've got is right here. So we have the hookup wire. It's nice and small. I'll put all the links to it down in the description below. You can see how thin that is, just a little red hookup wire. So we'll run those out, solder them to the board, and we'll get this happening. So all the way down there, you can see there's 2 little shiny dots. That's where we've got to solder onto. Back soon. So we now know where they are. So we have to come in here with a bit of solder. We'll just add a little bit of solder onto those 2 blobs firstly, and then we will run some cable. So you are going to have to excuse my head getting in here just for a moment. So there we go. So we'll just tin those up. And now I will get some wire ready to go. So we're going to go from here across to here. So I'm going to leave a bit of extra so we've got something to work with. So I'll let you fold that over, just like that. Double it back, and then I'll match it up at the other end. We use our side cutters here. Lovely. Then up this end. We'll actually leave that for now, and then we'll cut this end and tin it off onto the switch once we're ready. So I'll just get rid of my magnifier that's on my head so I can see what I'm doing. So we'll just go in here, squeeze slightly, and strip the end. You can see that's nice and stripped. Do the same on the other side now. Squeezed a bit too hard there. And that's now stripped. So they're both stripped, so we're going to tin those. Then we'll slip them back a bit and then we'll solder them to the point. So to tin them, we just take the soldering iron. We get the solder, that helps. And we just add a little bit of solder just to the wire, like so. Here we go, that's one side done. I prefer to use fresh solder onto the wire rather than the solder that's on the tip, so that means you're getting it nicely fluxed. Flux is what makes solder stick, if you didn't know. This is self-fluxing lead-based solder. Lead-based solder, lower temperature for soldering, generally better connection. However, yes, there are environmental hazards with it, so you just have to be careful. I'm in a well-ventilated room here, so I won't be sucking up too much lead fumes. Okay, move this out of the way, and we'll go to the next part. So I can see these are a little bit long for the job that we're doing. So we're going to trim these away, just a bit, just a little smidgy. This one as well, just a smidge. Don't know if you can see on there how small bits I've just taken off. They can go just into there. We now need to solder those onto here. So you're probably going to get my head shot again, so I do apologise. And we'll get this happening. We'll clean up these with a little bit of isopropylene afterwards. So that one's on there. I like to do them opposite so I can actually see the gap between them. It's a bit crooked. I'm just going to double check that now, so I'll be back with you in a sec. Okay, so I just double checked those and I wasn't quite happy, so I've just redid them slightly and just moved them a little bit, so that's fine. So now I've also cut the ends off here. I've tested it with a multimeter to make sure there's no short. So I'll now put the switch on here, which is just, here it is here. So we'll use a center pin and one off to the side. We'll solder those onto here, and then we will check with the multimeter to make sure that the switch is engaging and making it beep, which continues the circuit all the way through, closes the circuit, and then it opens again when we flick the switch. So we'll just test that, and if that's good to go, we are done on that part of the mod. So again, just strip these ends off. I'll just bring down my one done. That's two done. Awesome. Let's just tin those again. So we just get the switch and we'll pop it into the jaws like so. And then what I like to do, I'll flip it around so you guys can see what I'm doing. So there we go. Hopefully you can see that quite well. We've got the three prongs. We only actually need to use two, so we're going to use the centre and off to the side. So we will now just tin those and make this all happen. So I'll move the wire out of the way, bring the solder in, and off we go. So here's the middle one here. There we go, some nice solder. A bit too much, but that's fine. We've now bridged those. Beautiful. So here's one of the wires. Bridge that again. So let's just clear it out. There we go, it's better. And again. Okay, so that's done there. I'll have to cool down. Then we'll do the next one. Now if this was high voltage or anything weird, I would be heat shrinking these, but because it's on the ultra low voltage, I'm not going to worry about it today. So I'll just bring that back a little just so this cable is nice and close. And this one will pop it on the opposite side. There you go, see how much that was quicker that time because it was all ready. So there we go, so we now got the switch on there, so we'll test those points with a multimeter and see if it is doing its job. So the toggle switch will work in the opposites at the moment, those should be in a short. When we flick it this way, it should then be open circuit. So let's have a look. So here's our multimeter here. We've got this set on continuity mode. I've pushed the button so we hear an audible tone. So hear the tone? So that's great. So what we now need to do, I actually will need my maker file so I can see what I'm doing. So I'll come into here, one on one side of the wire, one on the other side. The switch should currently be in short mode, so you hear that? That's great. I'll flick the switch. Now it should be open circuit. There we go, not working. Flick the switch. So that's short. And that's not short. Fabulous stuff. Goodly, goodly. Small points, big prongs. Often you get false readings. That's why I double checked it. So there you go. So that mod is actually complete. What we need to do, I need to pop a hole just in here. So we can put the switch in. So I'll quickly drill that out. And we'll pop these back through and start reassembling parts of this Gamecube. And we'll go and test it and see if that works. So back with you. So put on new thermal paste on the heatsink here after cleaning everything off. So we're now going to pop the screws back in. I think we'll put these two in first loosely. Then these two, then these two. Then we'll tighten those, and then tighten those. I think is the plan. So here's the screws, we'll just pop them into place. And off we will go. Just doing these up just loosely firstly. Make sure it's all lined up. Okay, so that's all fine. So now we'll just go through and tighten these down. Doing this kind of like doing a head gasket on a car, just in a staggered pattern. Okay, that's great. So we've already gone ahead and put a hole in here. So for this one, I started off with a 4mm then went to 4.5, and then 5mm drill bit, and then with a 5mm drill bit, that'll fit nice and snug straight through the hole. So we'll take off the lock bolts, we'll pop it through like so. So basically up position will be US, down will be Japan. So what we're just doing is just popping on the washer, then the nut, tighten that up. Okay, so that's just finger tight. So we'll straighten that up a little bit, not quite straight. Okay, so what I'm going to do is roughly put this back together, and then we'll take it over to my TV in the lounge here, and we'll just give it a quick try and make sure it works before we fully reassemble. Right, let's check that out right now. Here we are, I've got the Gamecube just here in my lounge. We've just placed it together. We haven't connected the front ports, you can see they're missing. So here is the power button. We'll push this, and when I'll pull back, and you will notice a couple of things. So we'll turn it on. So here it is. NTSC, because it is an NTSC unit. And there we go, we have Japanese text there, and that's telling us that we need to reset the date, time, calendar. That's what that's going on. So now we'll turn this back off. And we'll go to the back here and see the toggle switch. We'll now click that down. No cutting. We'll push the button here. And this time, there you go, you must first set the calendar and other options, press any button. So there you go, that's how we convert it into an English, or from a Japanese NTSC to a American NTSC unit. The next thing we will be doing is the drive unit here. We'll be popping a mod chip on the bottom of it. So that means I can then put my PAL games in here, and they will work. So technically it's then a region-free Gamecube, so let's get on with it. So, back on the bench. So I'd only just roughly placed this together so we could do that test you've just seen. So we'll now quickly pull it apart again. So pull that to the side. We actually just need to pull the drive mechanism off this time, so I didn't put any screws back in, so we're just going to pop it back up. There we go, and you can actually see the switch on the back here mounted, and that's where the wires are run, so you can see that quite easily. So we'll grab this. What we now need to do is take all these little screws out of here. So I'll just stop the recording for a second, we'll move this over, and we'll take this plate off. So here we go, we flipped it over, we'll take these screws out here. There we go, we're taking that away. So now this is the underside of the laser mechanism. So we now have a mod chip that we have to pop on here. So we'll get that out of its packet. Here it is right here. So here is our little mod chip. A little Xeno. And we now have to pop this in the right place on the board here. Then we solder the joints. It will sit in there, and it's fairly straightforward. So I'll just get my magnifying stuff and we'll get on with that. Okay, back with you. I had to just quickly nick off to work. So I'm back. So what we're doing here is the mod chip, and it has to sit right here. I'll cut to a picture shortly of how it's got to look. So we drop that down here. There's a little hole here. And we have to line it up. So it's a little bit tricky. There's some pads that we have to solder through. So one over here, this one, one in here, and one. Okay, so let me just check how that looks under the magnifier. Okay, that's a bit better. I've just moved it over that way. So then we have to go in and we've got to solder these. So we're going to hold it in one corner and just drop a bit of solder into one section. And then we'll go around and solder the rest of it. So soldering iron is at temperature, which is great. Get in here. Let's do this. So this is just a close-up for you. Now, only one way to find out if this works is to put it together and see if it happens. So we'll go give this a bit of a try, and we'll reassemble if it's all good. Back with you soon. What I'm just going to do is just pop this into place. I'll just pop 2 screws in for testing. Just thought I'd better show you what I'm doing. So just line that back up. Get a screwdriver again. I'm just going to pop in 1 screw here and 1 over here. Okay, we'll go take this over to the TV. So here we go, we've got our Spice Orange controller. I've had to put the front section in so we can use the controller. Pop the disc in. We'll turn her on. I'll hold down the lid button. You'll see that she starts to spin. You can hear it going in the background. And there we go. Now, the TV is telling me it's coming up in PAL, even though it's an NTSC box. But you can see that we do have picture boot in black and white. So I'll use a Swiss boot up disc once I've made one. And I can then put a few different settings in this and lock it to NTSC or PAL or whatever I need it to run. But there we go, we have a PAL disc running on a Japanese Nintendo Gamecube. Look at this, awesome stuff. What we do is just stop the disc here. So as you saw, that was a success. So we have a mod chip in here now, and it is now also in English. So nice and handy. What I will do, I will download Swiss now, put that onto a memory stick, and we can put that into a special memory card in the front. We can also put a little SD micro SIM in a port in the bottom with a little adapter that we have. And then I can play any imported games and also homebrew. It does, yes, of course, enable you to play backups. However, yeah, I'm more interested in the homebrew and the different region games, because there's a few different games that are available. So we'll just put all this back together now. All the screws are in there. Great, let's get this back. Move that to the side. Bring the Gamecube over. So you can see our switch is nicely fitted in nice and snug there. It's not going to go anywhere. Laser, connector for the laser is here. There it is there, so just line that up. I have to pull this up and out of the way, otherwise it doesn't quite fit. Hear that click, that's in place. So now we put all the screws back in and off we go. These ones first. The back four. Put that back in there and off we go. So, clipping that back into place. Still works. Okie dokes. Now this goes here, and screw there and there. So we have to do these 3 in the middle. Okay, this now goes back into its position. I'll go in there, but better put these back in firstly. go. So now, 4 screws left. Looking good. Here's our cover. Slide that on. Flip her over. And we are almost done. Now these are the Gambit ones, remember? So pop those back in. Drop them down. Gambit driver here. And there we go. We are done. So there is our Spice Orange Japanese Gamecube, now in English with the option to flick it back to Japanese. There we go. Fantastic. So I've got a little SD card that we can put in there. We'll do that in another video. And we've got a little memory card we can put in one of these memory slots to run the Swiss, or we can even burn the Swiss onto a disc. So that's great. Fabulous stuff. Well, thanks for watching another episode today. And we've got more videos coming up soon, so that's great, and goodbye for now.